Hi, hopefully you can hear and see me okay. I think I've got it all set up on the right stream. Hi Donna, hi Maureen. Obviously this is live, so if you're watching back on a replay, it probably will be a bit more of a chatty video than just, you know, your standard sew-alongs and tutorials. But we're going to be sewing up the Pelican Tote, which is by Bagstock. I did do a very brief pattern pieces video, which is linked in the description. So if you want to go back and see exactly how I've cut everything out and prepped everything, that's sort of separate, so you can see it in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to go over onto my other camera and we'll make a start. I'll quickly run through the pattern pieces sort of as we go. I'm going to start off with my handles. I've already done one. You didn't obviously want to see me sewing up two handles one after the other, so I've already done one and I'm going to do the other one. So I've literally just drawn a line down the center, put some double-sided tape on either side, and then I'm just going to fold in the these edges into this center. I am going to leave a very slight gap. I'm not going to butt the edges up to each other, mainly just to make it easier to turn it, to fold it in half. You don't get sort of any extra fabric in that fold. So I hope everybody's really well. I am absolutely freezing today. I cannot get warm. So like I say, that all the pattern pieces, I did do a separate video, but I'll sort of walk you through the pattern pieces as we get to that point, as we're making it up, and just sort of briefly explain how I've interfaced them, etc. So that is folded into the center. I am just going to use my little roller to sort of flatten that out a little bit, and I'm just gonna bring my trolley in a little bit closer. I'm not twisting round. Donna's saying they had a little bit of snow overnight and she's really cold. Yeah, we haven't had any more snow, thankfully, but it is really very cold. I haven't had to go out today, which I am quite thankful for. I've just done orders this morning, done a little bit of computer work before coming live with you guys. So I'm just using a little bit of double-sided tape just along that middle there, just to sort of help keep it in place. And I'm just folding up those folded edges to meet, and I'm going to use some clips just to keep it in place. And that double-sided tape just down the center will just help sort of keep it in place when I'm sewing it. So I am just going to sew along both edges at 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, and my top stitching length, as always, is 4.5. I have a Tex 45 thread in my machine. I've also got a brand new needle in, go me. I'm using an 18 needle and obviously sewing on my Jack H2. Hi Elaine, hi Deborah. So like I say, already made one handle up and I'm just doing the other. The reason that I tend to always do my handles and straps first is because I'll have a full bobbin, or I should have a full bobbin. in theory, but I have today. I have just wound a bobbin on, and I've got a spare as well. Elaine saying my machine sounds really quiet. I was actually just thinking, Elaine, my bobbin sounds a little bit rattly, so I am just going to check it. I'm just going to pop my bobbin back in because it sounds a little bit rattly to me. There we go. So that is both of our handles made up. So I'm just going to pop these to one side because we don't quite need them yet. Like I say, I just like to prep them pretty much first if I can, because as I say, full bobbin and all that. Right, I think I'm going to work on one of my lining pieces first. I'm going to go a little bit out of sync to the pattern. So I obviously have two lining pieces, both cut out of cotton and interfaced with a woven interfacing. So I have my accent piece cut out. This is a 7.5 inch opening, and I then have my zip cut slightly longer than the zip opening, and I have my two zipper lining pieces, again both cut out of cotton and interfaced with a woven interfacing. I've gone ahead and put my double-sided tape on the back of my accent piece, and I've also just put some double-sided tape along the top edge of both of these zipper panel, the zipper pockets as well. So I'm going to pop my zip pull on. I have ironed my zip. I feel like that wasn't quite right. There we go. And I have also just given the ends a quick lick with a flame to make sure that they don't unravel. It's a Bagstock pattern. All the details will be in the description box, Donna. So, but it's a Bagstock pattern. Deborah's saying it's actually cool here too in Florida. Oh, well, at least it's not just us. But it's probably a little tiny touch warmer than what it is here. So I'm just going to find my centres. I have got my centres marked on the back, but I'm just going to throw my scissors away and just mark the centres so that I can line up my zip panel. I'm just going to find the bit in the pattern for the interiors because it's been a little while since I have made this pattern. So I'm going to come down by 3 inches. Let's get my ruler. So I'm just basically lining up the edge with the straight line. I'm also lining up that centre mark with the centre mark of my ruler, just to make sure that it is all nice and straight. Maureen says she's got a granddaughter with her accident at school. Earring up. Oh, that sounds nasty. Oh, so she's chilling with her crochet. Bless her heart. Hope she's all right. Yeah, it is a freebie, Maureen. It's a completely free pattern. So I'm just going to find the centre of my accent piece and line that up against the straight edge of the ruler. And this accent piece has been cut from my new template from my bag makers box from Studio 77. So I'm literally just going to stitch round this outside. See if I can find one of my labels. Or shall I use 2 seconds, because I've got my file with all my labels in here. Let's see. I shall use one of these. There we go, and that'll stitch in when I go round the edge. So I'm going to keep my threads nice and long. I'm going to keep a hold of them so that they don't bunch up underneath, and I'm literally going to sew around this edge at about 1/8 of an inch away from that edge. Ooh, I'm a bit close there. And I'm just using my my lift or my presser foot just to sort of work my way around. I'm going to pull this thread through on this side. And then I'm literally just going up to where I started sewing. And then I'm just going to pull that other thread through so we don't have any back stitching and it is all nice and neat. And if you want to, you can sort of see those ends of those threads if you want to. I do have a full video on my channel as well of putting in a zipper accent piece. Donna says, I struggle where to position the foot on the fabric to get even stitches around the corners. Literally just do a single stitch. I would like literally go around single stitches all the way around. I'm just cutting this this back. I'm literally just going just behind the zipper accent. I'm making sure that when I'm cutting, I'm not cutting through that accent. I've done that before. Sue's saying she's just popping on before she heads off to the hospital. And Michelle says she's just back for them from the hospital, so she has already off. Hope everybody's having a good day. I hope your hospital appointment went all right, Michelle. I hope yours goes okay, Sue. Just going to trim that bit back a little touch more. I don't want any peeping out. There we go. And then I'll just pop some double-sided tape on here, ready for when we get to that stage. I'm just going to move this to one side and start on the zipper lining. So I want my zip to open from left to right, so I'm going to put my zip on this way. I'm just going to move that along a little bit. Probably could have done with that zip being a tiny touch longer, but never mind. So the zip goes right side up and the lining piece is also right side up. It will seem counterintuitive, but it will work. Oh, Monkey Sock says hi from Durham. That's literally just down the road from me. Karen says nice surprise to see you live. Michelle says it was an iron infusion. Sounds like a tea. Donna says she had one yesterday. I can't even pronounce those words, Donna. And she might have glue ear. Wow, we're all in the wars at the moment. So I'm just literally going to stitch along. I'm about 1/4 of an inch in, and I tend to use the edge of the outside of my foot against my teeth to keep it all nice and straight. Sue says, nice to see the zip overlay. I haven't tried one yet. Oh, I don't do mine any other way now. I very, very rarely will put a zip in a different way. So I'm just pressing that down with my fingers to keep it out of the way. And then I'm just doing exactly the same thing on this side. Line up the edge of the zip with the edge of the zip lining. Just make sure it's as straight as you can get it. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. Michelle says, seems like we've got more in common than just sewing, keeping the hospitals busy. Yes, we should definitely set up a sewing class in the hospital waiting room. That sounds like a very good idea. Valerie says hi from a snowy is that Alzagar? I don't know how that's pronounced. You'll have to let us know where that where that is, I'm just going to pop my iron on and give this a little press. Monkey Sock says, I'm always confused about the definition of a tote bag because they vary so much. Does anybody know why they are called a tote bag? I think it's just kind of the sort of roughly the sort of size. Usually has sort of shoulder handles on it, but I don't actually know what the proper definition of a tote bag is, if I'm completely honest with you. Sue saying, I hope the weather's okay where you are. We've had a bit of snow and then blue sky this morning, and now it's overcast. Yeah, it's cold here. Michelle says a hospital is near an ultimate craft store, so she may have accidentally bought some goodies when she just planned on browsing. I mean, if ever there's a good reason to go in and treat yourself, then that's it, Michelle. Like, no judgment here. There's no judgment. We're all friends. We all know what it's like. Michelle says it's from the term tote bag, which comes from the English verb tote, which means to carry, to transport. So, I mean, really, effectively, all bags are tote bags, aren't they? Because they all carry something and transport something. Usually, in our case, fabric. So I've just sort of pressed that out, just to sort of flatten it down a little bit. And then I'm going to line up my opening over my zipper. I want to make sure that it's pretty even, and I'm just going to take off one side of the double-sided tape first. I'm not taking off both sides, I'm just going to do one. Try not get my zipper caught. And I'm just trying to make sure that this is nice and even all the way along my zipper, so it's nice and straight. When I'm happy with that, I'll take off the zipper tape from the other side and do exactly the same. And then if I need to kind of reposition it and jiggle it, I can do. Stop getting my fingers caught on the double-sided tape. And also the zipper pull. Normally I would have had the zipper a little bit longer, but for some reason, only known to me, I've cut my zip quite short today. So I'm happy that that's all lined up nice and centrally, and I'm now literally just going to sew around the zip again, exactly like I did on this edge. I tend to start from about an inch in from the end where the zipper pull is, come round and then sew this end because I can move the zipper out of the way. Mari says, I missed the part where you created the envelope flap. I'll have to rewatch. That's fine. I do actually have a complete video on zipper overlays as well. Mari, if there, it is linked in the description box down below. Apologies for the dogs barking. There is somebody at the door. Didn't change my stitch length. Am I happy with that? No, I'm going to use my wheel just to sort of move that stitch further up. That light's really reflecting badly, isn't it? I can't seem to stop the light reflecting. Suppose that's a bit better. Hopefully you can see that okay. And then I'm just going to do exactly the same thing there. And then I'm just going to sew up to where I started stitching at the wrong stitch length, but never mind. And see, I'm keeping my threads nice and long so that I can pull them through. Oh, except this one has caught when I've come down the other side. Let's just work that out. There we go. So I'm just going to pull both of these threads through. So when you pull on them, you will get a little loop, which hopefully you should be able to just pull through. There we go. And I'm just going to tie these off. Maureen's saying, got to go, catch up later. No worries, Maureen. Have a really nice day. I hope your granddaughter's okay. I was told it's better to start bottom left, as eyes usually focus top right initially. Whatever kind of works best for you, Donna, is absolutely fine. I just tend to find working that way for me works the best way. Monkey Socks was saying she was wondering if it was anything to do with the tote brand as to why they were called tote bags. I really need to get some self-threading needles. I did buy some, but then the self-threading bit didn't work. I couldn't actually get the threads into the eye of the needle. But it would definitely be a lot quicker than trying to thread 2 threads through the eye of this needle when I am as blind as a bat. So I'm just pulling the threads through to the other side so that they are out of the way. So they've been pulled through to the other side. Maury saying the first proper tote she sewed was the Pelican. I've just realised that I've used almost identical fabric for my lining. John Loudon. I actually don't even know what this lining fabric is or where I got it from, if I'm completely honest with you. Yeah, can't remember. So I'm just evening up them lining pieces, and I'm just going to sew down each side, and I'm going to leave the bottom open. I always go over my zip as well. And just turn up that bottom, those bottom seams, just to create my turn. It makes it easier when you come to close your zip up. And I'm probably sewing this at about 1/2 inch. And I'm just going to take out the bulk in this corner. And then I'm going to remember to leave my zip at least halfway open. And something else that I've been doing recently is just using a bit of glue behind the back of this accent piece. It's a little tip that I picked up from somebody else who I watch making bags. And it just helps with the stress put on the ends of the zip. So hence one of the reasons why I'm starting with my lining piece first, because that will give that a little bit of time to dry off. So I'm just going to pop this lining piece over to the side. I'll put it behind me actually. And then we can work on our front panels. I have put my other zip away. Not a problem, because Andy is in and he can save the day. I was being all tidy earlier on because anybody who follows me knows I hate a messy sewing room. So I sort of got all prepped and then put everything away that I didn't need, and I've put away one of the zippers. So I'm just going to get Andy to pass me some in. There we go. So I'm just going to pop my double-sided tape on while I wait for Andy to bring us some zipper tape in. Mucky Sock says, what a great idea, turning up the bottom, always end up with a turning through, being out of line with the rest. Yeah, I think that was Lauren who I picked that up from. And the glue is just Fabri-Tac, it's just Beacon glue. I either use Fabri-Tac or 3-in-1. I don't and you're just asking me how much tape I want. Donna's saying, ooh, the bag maker's box fabric, it's lush, been trying to get some more. I literally had enough to cut my front panels and my back panel, and that was it. I didn't even have enough to make any for the lining or zipper pockets or anything. Like, I literally eked out the very, very last of my fabric, but it is absolutely beautiful. So Sue will be very proud of me. I'm going to have a drink of water. I have been very, very good at drinking more water. I think I was talking about it on one of the other lives that I did, saying about trying to drink more water, and I have been very, very good. Thank you. I put it away and I don't know where I put it. Thanks. Get my lighter. And I'm going to pop my iron on because it will need a press. And I definitely need some better lighters than these, because they aren't very good. So I've got my zip pull. I'm just going to press my zip to make sure it is all nice and straight. I did press my other zip before we started. But this little press is really handy for when I basically don't want to get up and use the big iron behind us. So basically all I'm doing is just making sure that this is all nice and straight and there's no kinks in it. There we go. And I think I'll put my pull on now. Go from this side, it's a bit straighter. I hope everybody's had like a really nice start to their new year. I might leave the iron on actually because I might want to press this. We shall see. So again, I want my zip to go left to right. I'm just going to move it out of the way actually. And I'm just lining up the edge of the zip with the edge of the front panel. And if you want to, you can baste that in place. Obviously I'm using double-sided tape, so I'm just going to go ahead and sandwich mine together. So you want right side of your exterior to right side of the zip, and then you want to place your lining right side down as well. Shall we change the foot? I think we shall. So I tend to stitch with a zipper foot on, and I just switch between the two sides. My preference is obviously the other one. That's what I stitch with most of the time. That's what I sew with most of the time. But when I'm putting a zip in, I'm going to swap over. So I'm just stitching this in. I'm sure it's 3/8 of an inch on this part. I'm just going to go and double check. It's 1/4 of an inch. 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So again, you can use your seam guide to make sure everything lines up. Molly says, good morning from Washington State. Good morning. I am actually in the original Washington, where George Washington's ancestors were from. So if you want to, you can give this a quick press, obviously because we are using cotton. We can press. And then to make sure that I just have everything nice and straight, I'm going to put a clip in that side and a clip in this side. And again, if you want to, you can use your iron to press down and then top stitch. And we're about 1/8 of an inch away from the seam. That's gone all dark again, hasn't it? Let's put my, there we go. And then we just need to bring this top piece up. Let's use some double-sided tape again to keep it in place. And I just want to make sure that I get this nicely lined up. It's all nice and straight. So we hopefully, fingers crossed, will not get a wonky or wavy zip. I've already put the double-sided tape on this part. So I have marked which was my top of my piece because it is slightly directional. So obviously for this to be the top, we need to attach the bottom part of the top panel to the zip. Hope that makes sense. It does in my head, but that's not saying anything, because lots of things make sense in my head that don't make sense for anyone else. So again, quarter of an inch. Would waterproof canvas work for the exterior? Yeah. You just wouldn't interface it. And then again, we're just going to do exactly the same thing and top stitch. Give it a little press since we are using cotton. Trying to remember which way to go because I'm using my opposite zipper foot than what I normally use, and it confuses me. So that is the zipper in place, and I'm just going to baste down each side just to sort of keep everything in place. So we can go back to my other zip foot now. And I'm just kind of going to use the top stitching length just to baste down. And then before we do the other side, we just want to move our zip into the panel so that we're not basting with our zip outside of the panel, which I have done numerous times. And just trim this back. Just give it a quick once over just to make sure that that zip is sealed. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to check it against this piece to make sure that they are the same. If you found that this piece was slightly bigger, it's maybe just to do with your seam allowance, then just trim it down. Claire says, do you have a mic on? Your machine is very quiet. I do have a mic on, yeah. Just because actually where I live as well is quite noisy, so hopefully by having a mic on you can hear me, but you can't hear all of the sort of background noises that go on, because we have a very busy household. We have you know, kids coming in and out all of the time. We have 2 dogs. We live on a busy street, so hopefully it means that you don't hear all of the distractions that I hear. Michelle says, I'm waiting on some fabric to arrive. I'm going rouge. I'm going to rogue and try and get my hand at some dressmaking. I bought a pattern for a jumpsuit. I keep saying that I'm going to get back into dressmaking, and I never do. But I need to do it. So we just need our 2 of our exterior pieces, our side pieces. We obviously have 4 in total, 2 cut left, 2 cut right, or 2 cut left, 2 cut right. So these are just cut out of vinyl. They don't have any interfacing on. And I'm just going to line up the top and the bottom, put some clips in, and then clip up. And do exactly the same on the other side. So our rounded part is at the bottom and the straight part is at the top. Let's just move that zip out of the way. And I'm sure this pattern is a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but I am just going to double check again. It is, yeah. So basically just going to sew down each side, and I might as well clip my other back panel to the other pieces while I'm here. So this is my top. So these can all get clipped in place too. Has anybody been watching anything really good on the telly? Because I need some new programs to watch. We took advantage of the Apple free weekend and got caught up on Slow Horses, which was amazing. And yeah, I am all out now of things to watch. I think I've completed Netflix. I think I've completed Amazon. We don't have Apple TV as a rule. We just got the free weekend this weekend. So if you've got any good TV suggestions, I'm all ears. So I'm literally just going to sew down at 1/2 inch because that is the seam allowance. I've gone back to my construction stitch, and I'm just going to do all sides while I'm on that construction stitch and do them all together. Michelle says, I've downloaded this bag pattern, can't believe it's free. Yeah. Handmaid's Tale. I did try and get into that, and I never got into it, but I might try again. So I'm just going to go straight on to my next piece so that I'm not wasting threads, and then I can just clip that and move it out of the way. Monkey Sock says, you'll have to tell me what your first name is. You might have told me in the past, but I can't remember. Bad Sisters on Apple, which is free if you have a Blue Rewards in Barclays. I don't, but I'm not adverse to getting Apple TV. John is saying the new Dalglish series. Oh, that was on my list, and I haven't watched it, so I shall make sure I watch that. Just rewatched all of It's Val. I'm sure you have told me that in the past, but I do have an awful memory. Yeah, I have just literally finished watching Last Tango in Halifax again. I probably will forget again, Val, and I do apologise, but in my defence, I don't always get my kids' names right neither, which is a bit pants for my son when he gets called his sister's names, but hey ho. Michelle said she needs something to binge watch, so she's more into podcasts, then she can concentrate on her sewing. Yeah, I mean, I tend to only watch things in my sewing room when I'm sewing that don't need a lot of concentration, because I will get caught up in what's going on and either, you know, make mistakes or just not get done what I need to get done. Donna says Pembrokeshire. Yeah, I've watched that. That was really good. I've watched it twice actually. I do sometimes will like rewatch things in my sewing room that I've already seen, hence why I've just kind of rewatched Last Tango in Halifax, because I've seen it before. So I just had it on in the background. But I do love that series. So I am literally now just going to top stitch down each side, making sure that my seams go towards the exterior fabric. Can't figure out which way I need to go. Michelle says it's a given that we can't get our kids' names right. I only have 2 kids, son and a daughter, and I get them mixed up. Yeah, I sometimes get them mixed up with the dogs' names as well. The dogs just tend to get called the boys, and then like there's no confusion who I'm talking about, because obviously my dogs have kind of not typically dog names, especially when you got a dog called Bruce. Donna says I like Morse and Frost, good for background watching. Yeah. I'm probably going to rewatch Happy Valley as well, and Line of Duty, because I love those programs. Michelle says she doesn't get her dog's names mixed up, although they are girls, so they're just, come on, girls. I was a Midnight and Alexis. Oh, that's unusual. My 2 are like Ant and Dec. They always stand on the same side. Like one's always on the left, one's always on the right. They are so funny. And they quite often like to come in the sewing rooms, but they are not allowed in at the moment. I learnt my mistake when I had them in on a previous live, and then they decided they wanted to be out and they wanted to go outside, and it was just a nightmare. So yeah, they get locked out while I'm filming. So they are our exterior pieces. Now I was undecided as to whether I was going to use any foam or not. I'm not typically a big foam fan, but I'm going to use some. It is in the pattern. I think as well what probably would work quite well is fleece if you didn't want it very structured. I just don't have any to hand. It's all in the garage. So I do have my foam pieces to hand, so I am just going to baste these on. I'm just going to go and get some temporary adhesive. And just pop some in the middle. Just to help keep it in place. Val says, I always worry in case the girls get under the table and step on the pedal. Yeah, Hamish has done that a couple of times. I just use this temporary adhesive stuff just to kind of make sure it all sits nice. And I'm just going right up to my biggest stitch length, and I'm going to baste probably somewhere between 1/4 and 3/8. Our seam allowance is 1/2 inch, so as long as it's within the seam allowance, but I'm probably going to do about 1/4. And I don't know if you can kind of sort of see what I'm doing here with my hand, but I'm kind of putting my hand on to keep this nice and flat so it doesn't sort of move and sort of get like ruched up. So I tend to sort of try and keep straightening it out as I'm basting. I'll put that one to one side, and then I'll get my big scissors out in a second. And then I'm just going to do exactly the same on this side. Michelle's saying one of her dogs has done the same. It's very confused. I know when Hamish did it, I didn't realise he was in here. I think he got as big a shock as what I did, to be fair. He normally kind of like really likes to be around you and what have you. So, but since he got Pooley, he's kind of a bit more of a loner, and Bruce has always been a loner. So that's the foam all basted on. Oh, my scissors were right here. And I'm just going to trim back the foam kind of to my basting line, but I probably will trim it back some more once the seams are completed, so I'm not worried too much about how much I'm trimming it back. Star's not allowed in my sewing room after being caught peeing cutting table leg. Yeah, I've got to be sort of like really careful with Hamish now, because obviously he's not well and he sometimes can have accidents, so I don't tend to let him anywhere where him having accidents would be a big problem. So sometimes when I'm busy, I'll put them in the passageway where their bed is, because it's all like tiled floor, so it's easily sorted. But to be fair, that's where Hamish tends to lie a lot anyway now. He keeps himself to himself quite a bit, apart from on a night time when he likes to lie on the sofa next to Andy. But during the day, he just kind of tends to stay in the passageway. And Bruce just literally lies on the settee all day. I have such lazy dogs. They are like the epitome of lazy. So that is both the front and back panel done, and the lining panels are all done. So all we need to do now is sew in our darts to create the shape of the bag. Let me just get my template. I already have them marked on my lining piece, but I need to put them on this piece. So just lining up the template with the edge and then marking it. So what I like to do, just to make sure that I'm lining them up nicely, is I snip into the start of the dart, just sort of, you know, a couple of mil, and that is just within the seam allowance, so you're not going to see that, and I line those two snips up and get some clips. So it's different to when you do a dart with dressmaking, because we are going to backstitch at the beginning and at the end. I'll do my exteriors first and then I'll do my lining pieces. And you just want to make sure that where you folded, you're going down to this point here. So I'm just going to stitch them first. I'm going to come down with small stitch length. Just move this out of the way for the time being. Oh, sorry, my camera was a little bit skew with there. So I'm just going to trim back these seams and I'm going to cut the foam back as far as I possibly can. find these smaller scissors are better. Oh, I have got some. These might work a little bit better. You can get the flat end in. And then I'm just snipping on that fold so that can lie nice and flat. I'm just going to do that with all of the seams. Just making sure that those sit nicely and they're pushed out. I'll do the same on the other side. Donna says she's sitting cutting out Velcro. Me and Andy have been sorting out hardware and putting screws on things for like the last few days, which has been a bit tedious, but it's one of those jobs that needs to be done. So again, I'm just making sure that that is sitting nicely and I'm happy with it. And then we just can do the same on our lining. So I'm just making sure that those lines match up. And that my fold is going down to the point. And again, with a really small stitch length, back stitching at the beginning and end. So at this point, I'm going to add my handles. So if you've got a preference to which side you like the best, I think I like that side the best. And I'm just going to line them up. I think it is on the inside, but I shall double check the pattern. I like my fold to be on the inside because it's funny like that. And when you're popping them on, just make sure that they are nice and straight, that they're not twisted. I like to usually lift mine up and just double check. Yeah. Yeah, so the edge of your strap goes against the edge of your exterior panel. I thought it did, but I just wanted to double check. And I'm just going to baste them in place. So our tabs for our magnetic snap. If I'm completely honest, what I would probably do is probably just put my magnetic snap straight into my lining, because that is a preference for me personally. So I would pop my magnetic snap on either side, like one on one side, one on the other, directly into the lining, and then the lining would just close. I would come down by about 1.25 inches and pop my magnetic snaps there. But I'm going to be a good girl and I'm going to follow the pattern for once in my life. So I have my 4 tabs cut out. I have marked on 2 of them where the placement for my magnetic snaps is going to go, and basically I've already cut the holes with my seam ripper. So I'm basically going to put one that's been marked against one that hasn't, right sides together, and I'm going to sew around. And I'm just going to double check the seam allowance because I can't remember if it's slightly different. Yeah, 1/4 inch, I thought it was. So I'm not going to pop my magnetic snap in just yet. I'm going to do it once I've sewn it and turned it through. I must have moved my chair slightly. I'm sitting really far away from my knee lift. And I'm just going to do exactly the same thing with the other one. Put my iron on to be warming up. I'm just going to cut round this seam allowance with my pinking shears. I'm trimming it back by about half. Morning, Suzanne. I'm just going to use my nails just to push this seam out. And then I'll press it with my iron. This is one of the reasons why I prefer to not put my magnetic snap in first, because it means I can press it properly. And I did put a little bit of Decaville light just behind where those snaps are going to be, just for a little bit of extra reinforcement. And just pressing them before you top stitch them will, like obviously with the bin cotton, will just make it sit a little bit, be like a little bit crisper, be a little bit neater. So I'm going to pop my magnetic snaps in, just one in one side, one in the other. If I can open them, they're really strong, these magnetic snaps. My goodness, this one does not want to come apart. Right, so I've already got my my sort of slits cut. I'm just using a little bit of glue on the back of the if you want to, you can top stitch before you put your magnetic snaps in if you find it easier. I sometimes find it harder to get the magnetic snaps in once it's been top stitched, because it makes the opening a little bit smaller. So I'm just popping the back. And just flattening out those prongs, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing on this side. Donna's saying she's not keen on the tabs. Straight line and would be better. Yeah, to be fair, if I was making it for me, I would be straight onto the lining. Obviously I wanted to show you how the tabs go. I'm just going to pop a little bit of tape over those prongs, just basically just to protect the fabric, especially with it being cotton. And then I'm going to top stitch. and then I just baste these two edges closed at the top. Just going to find my centres. And my lining pieces. Oh, I haven't found the centre of this one. It's not like me, I normally have it all done before I even start. So I prefer the male part of the snap to go against the back and the female against the front, but that is just a personal preference. Like, there's no hard and fast rules. So I'm just matching up those centre marks that I made on both the tab and my exterior, lining them up, and I'm just going to baste these in place. So we now basically want to sew our lining pieces and our exterior pieces together. Just bring these over. And yep, my holder for my clips is a Christmas gift bag. I like to match my darts, push one seam to one side, one seam to the other. You can butterfly them open if you prefer. I just tend to push them one way, one the other. And I'm going to leave open the bottom to turn the bag through. Obviously you can sew this up and just turn it through the zip if you want to. I just find it easier to turn through a bigger hole in the lining. So I'm going, with my lining, I am going to start my stitching at a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to come down about 1 inch and a bit, and then I'm going to move my seam guide to the 3/4 inch. I don't know why my camera is shaking so much. It's not touching anything, so it shouldn't be shaking. Yeah, so I'm going to come down to a 3/4 inch to reduce the lining slightly so that it sits better in the bag. So I'm going to come to just past where these darts go. and then I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to start at a 1/2 inch and then increase up to 3/4. Hazel says she's just sat down from doing housework, and there I am. Well, Hazel, you could have come and done mine too. Oh. And I'm just going to trim back and I'm just going to baste these seams open. Oh. Because when it comes to putting them together, they will go together much easier. Definitely need some new snips. I'm just making sure I'm cutting all my threads back. I hate loose threads. Right, move that to one side, and I'm just going to do exactly the same thing on the exterior, but obviously I'm going to go all the way around. I'm not leaving an opening. So I'm going to match my, apologies, I've just knocked my phone on the floor. Got too many things on that table. Donna says she's starting to prep for tea, cauliflower cheese today. And the problem we have, or the problem I have, is how I change my cameras is on my phone, which is now on the floor across the other side of the room. I think I might have it on my other phone. I shall check. Or we may just have to stick to one camera. Note to self, don't leave your phone plugged in because the wire will catch and it will send it flying. Yep, it is. It's across the other side of the room. I'm sure I've got it on this one. I have. Let's not send this one flying though. Especially not that, because that is my actual phone, it's not my spare. So this is 1/2 inch all the way around. I've sent everything flying. Have you got snow? Not as far as I know. I've got my curtains closed. No, we haven't got any snow. We had snow 2 days ago, but it literally lasted one day and was then gone. It was gone by the night time. But my word, it is cold. This can be a little bit bulky, obviously with having the foam, so just take your time when you're sewing. And then with this being vinyl, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run another row of stitching, just sort of slightly behind that original row. There we go. So this is literally just behind. And then if there's any bits where you feel like you haven't quite got the seam allowance right, you can kind of correct it. And the reason that I'm doing a second row stitching is just to reinforce, and it stops kind of the stitching showing on the seam. So I am just going to I basically just cut my basting stitches out. I did have the scissors round the right way. Before I trim this foam back. Obviously where we have created those darts is pretty much where I can go up to. So I just cut back as much as I possibly can. And I'm just going to work my way around and do exactly that all the way around. It does take a little bit of time. You know, you might not want to take the time to do it, but cutting back the foam really does make all the difference. Just this bit where I've gotten to the cotton, I'm just wanting to make sure I'm not cutting through, because it's not as rigid as the vinyl, so it's a little bit harder to cut against. Sometimes, if obviously, like, I have used a basting stitch, so sometimes if you get a loose thread, you can just pull it. Sometimes it doesn't work with it being so bulky. I can't seem to get the thread loose. Yeah, it doesn't want to pull, so I'm just gonna cut them stitches out. But yeah, it might seem like a time-taking thing to do, but it is sort of really worth doing, and cutting this foam back, it will make your seams sit a lot better. I tend to try and remember to cut my foam back before I trim my seams back, because it's easier to do. Oh, because these scissors are nice and small there, I can actually get it in and do it that way, and then I can just cut them bits off. Well, that's easier, isn't it? I mean, you can, if you want to, cut your foam smaller and just baste it in. I sometimes do that, but what I sometimes find is that the foam doesn't always sit properly, and it can sort of move and you just basically not get as nice a finish. So I do tend to try and baste my foam in, although it does make it sort of a bit more sort of time taken to cut it back. You'll also notice on some of my other videos, sometimes what I'll do is I'll substitute foam for Decaville, because my preference is Decaville, and I will make another pattern piece out of the seam allowances and fuse the Decaville on. I do that quite a lot when I make the sunshine crossbody. I don't like to use foam in that bag. I like to use Decaville. So I've actually made pattern pieces now that are for the Decaville, and obviously it keeps it out of the seam allowance, so I don't have to do that. Hazel says it really does improve the seams, doesn't it? Yeah, massively. It really does. As I say, it just takes a bit of time to cut it back and sort of get it out of the seams, but it really does make all the difference. So I'm going to get my Pelican shears, and I'm not cutting back the very top part of my bag. I'm going to cut back from about an inch down. And I'm reducing the seam allowance by about half, making sure that I don't go through my stitches. It was much easier cutting out the foam using the scissors that way. And like I say, I'm leaving my seam as it is at the top. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing as I did with the lining, and I'm just going to baste these seams open. Kind of got to squish the bag a little bit to do it. Just cutting back all my threads, making sure that my handles are sitting inside of the bag. So I'm going to turn my lining right side through, and I want my zip pocket to be against the back of the bag. So that is the bit that doesn't have the zip on the front, it's the other part here. And then I'm going to match up these side seams. And I've just realised I didn't put a name badge on. I think because I didn't get one out when I was sorting out my hardware. I shall have to get my name badges out for the other bags that I've got cut out so that I don't forget to do it. I possibly could wangle one on at some point once it's made, but I don't like to do that. I like to do it when it's flat. So I'm just popping clips in all the way around. So I'm making sure that those tabs are facing down as well. Matching up centres. Donna said I've started doing that, easy to cut out with separate pattern pieces. Yeah, all I do is print out an extra piece and then cut the seam allowance off to make my smaller piece. So it's easy to do. It just, oh, I put them in the wrong one, never mind. It is easy to do, it just takes a little bit longer when you're cutting out your pattern. I tend to only do it if I know I'm going to make the pattern again. I don't tend to do it on something that I'm not sure whether I'm going to make again. But if I really love the pattern and I know I'm going to make it more than once, I'll do that because I think it's worth it. So I'm basically now just going to sew around all the way around the top at 1/2 inch. Where my tabs are, I'm just going to back stitch over that just to really secure them. I'm going to do the same where my handles are. And then it's just a case of sort of manoeuvring the bag around while you stitch it. And because I have stitched these seams flat, it's easier to keep them flat and butterflied open so that you don't have too much bulk. I'm just making sure that that flap is sitting nice and straight. Hazel says she uses Decaville mostly, but it's nice doing a foam bag, much easier to squish under the machine. Yeah, it can be. I just prefer the look of Decaville in bags to foam. I'm really confused by you changing my camera on the other phone because it's set up slightly differently. So I'm like, what am I doing? And then I'm just going to do the same thing and try and cut out as much of this foam as I possibly can. because we have quite a lot of seams at the top, you might find that you can only cut out so far, but just cut out as much as you possibly can. Like, I'm going to struggle here where I have back stitched because I can't really get in, but that's okay. I'm so pleased like the camera isn't face forward, because my concentration face at the moment is probably not very pretty. Now, when I top stitch the tops of my bags, I don't tend to trim the seams back at the top, hence why I'm pulling out this foam as I trim it back. I tend to leave my seams as they are on the top part of the bag. Hazel says, I think cotton bags need foam, vinyl bags better with Deckerville. Yeah, I would tend to agree there. I don't tend to sew a lot with cotton on my exteriors anyway. If I have any cotton in, it's usually just sort of like a small part, like sort of this one where it's a bit of an accent. I tend to mostly sew with vinyl exteriors because that is my preference. But I just wanted to use up the last of this fabric because I just love it so much. And like Donna was saying, it's pretty much out of stock everywhere. I think there's quite a few of the fabrics that Emma's getting in on the bag makers box that are out of stock now in places, so people have maybe getting it in the bag makers box and then gone and bought more. Last little bit of foam. Like I say, it is worth doing, especially in this top part, so that you don't have like a really bulky top stitch. Obviously I'm going to have little bits here, but that's behind where my handles are, so that'll just probably give a little bit of extra reinforcement as well. I probably could have maybe reduced this top bit and not basted it in, but I would have maybe run the risk of not catching it in when I sewed round. So I'm going to pull the bag through this opening in the bottom. Just being very careful that I don't tear. Get rid of all those loose threads. Say the camera's really picking up this lining fabric as like really red, and it's actually sort of like a cerise purple. Donna's saying she was lucky another box subscriber wanted more of a previous cotton which you hadn't been keen on, and you did a swap. That's mint. That's really, it's a good thing to do though as well, isn't it? Like, because obviously with it being a mystery box, you're not always guaranteed to love everything that you get. So I'm just going to pop that lining down into the bag. I'm just using my fingers to sort of roll it, and I shall put some clips on. But while this is open, I'm going to use the opportunity to make sure that everything is pushed out. And then I'm going to put plenty clips top. Listen to my stomach rumbling. That's because I had a sandwich before I started. Me and Neve went to the pictures the other day to see the new Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield movie, and there's like quite a few parts of it where it was like quiet and my stomach kept going "Arr, arr," right where it was like the quietest part, and I was like, will you shut up? It was so embarrassing because it was so loud as well. Let's just get a couple of more clips on these bits here. So you can, if you want to, top stitch from this way. Obviously if you're sewing on a domestic and you have a free arm, you'd be able to use the free arm. I'm just going to pull the bag through so that my exterior is on the inside. I'm not going to worry too much about pulling the bag through fully, just enough so that it's sitting nicely at this top part, and then I can top stitch with my exterior being up because that is my preference. Sometimes I'll wangle it so that I don't have to pull it through and just kind of force it under the machine, but I don't want to catch these handles, so I'm turned it through and I'm going to top stitch this way around. So basically just want to get it under the machine. I'm starting at the back, and I'm going to drop my needle in to where one of those seams starts, and then I am just very carefully and very slowly going to top stitch, because in parts this is quite bulky, especially where the tabs are, because you're going through the exterior, you're going through some foam, and then you're also going through these tabs. Or if you need to, use something like a hump jumper. And then just where, you know, you've got the thickness of these straps, and then you're coming onto these side seams here. If you need to just take it one stitch at a time, if your machine has a single stitch, use that. If it doesn't, use the wheel to sort of move the needle just like literally one stitch at a time. Anything that you can do to ensure that your top stitching goes as smoothly as possible, especially when, you know, you've spent a lot of time making a bag. You basically don't want it to be ruined by your top stitching, or like, you know, you're not being happy with your top stitching. I would say top stitching's probably my weakest. Daisy saying, sorry I missed a bit there as I was right at the start. Anyway, what did you say about foam? Do you usually like Decaville? Yes, I prefer Decaville. But I'm being good and using foam as the pattern dictates. I won't always on these lives do what the pattern dictates, because I don't very often, if I'm completely honest with you. But yes, I prefer Decaville and out of the seams. So how I would have done this bag with Decaville is I would have cut each pattern, each exterior piece. I would have done an exterior piece in Decaville out of the seam allowances, rather than doing one big piece of Decaville out of the seam allowances at the end. I would have done each piece its own piece of Decaville and done it that way, which is more time taken, but is what I prefer to do. Usually that's what I do with the sunshine. Daisy saying, I don't think my machine will like all them layers. Obviously I'm using vinyl as well, Daisy, so you can, you know, these parts can be cotton too. Just remember that if you're using cotton to interface it with woven interfacing, or if you don't want to use foam, if you feel like your machine won't like the foam, use fusible fleece. I think fusible fleece would work really well in this bag. Oh, there's my hump jumper. I couldn't find it then. I've sent it flying across the but yeah, Decaville would work. Sorry, Decaville would work, but so would fusible fleece if you didn't want it as thick. I'm just doing a couple of little back stitches just to secure that, because it's right on that seam. You're not going to notice it. So I'm just going to bring it back through. And then to close up this opening, I'm going to come through my zipper pocket and pull this lining through, and I'm going to carry on that stitching. Remember that we did it at 3/4, so I'm just going to back stitch where I left off. I'm going to match up my centres. You can put some clips in if you need to. Pop your seam guide on to keep you right. And then I'm just going to trim back the rest of that seam like we did before. I am absolutely covered in threads. And while my zipper pocket is still open, I like to push everything out again, just making sure it's all nice and flat before I close up. Actually, I don't mind the tabs so much, but yeah, I think a preference for me personally, like Donna said as well, is I probably would just go straight onto the lining for any future bags and just omit the tabs. That would reduce the bulk as well when you're top stitching that top seam. So if you felt that your machine was going to struggle, you could definitely omit these tabs and it not be as bulky. Could you add a recess zipper to this bag? You absolutely could. Just remember that when you separate your lining to add on seam allowance. And I would do it exactly the way that I did the Annette in the club, Daisy. I would just follow those instructions. So I'm just going to close up the zipper pocket. Push that in. I like to get my fingers really in and push out them corners in the zip pocket as well. Making sure that my lining is sitting all nice and neat. And there, it's all finished. I'll come back onto the other camera. So that's it, all finished. I absolutely love this fabric. I just, yeah, it's beautiful. Like I say, I don't know what it's coming out like on the other side, but on my screen this is looking really red, but it's not. It's like a cerise purple, which is why I went for it, because it matches kind of this colour quite well. So yeah, I think, as I say, I would definitely have my my snaps straight into the lining, just as a preference. I think, yeah, I'd prefer it without the tabs, but obviously I did the tabs because that was part of the pattern. But yeah, and I think I'm down to the dregs of this vinyl now, which is such a shame because I love it. It's such a lovely colour. But yeah, but as I say, with it having the foam, it is really quite squidgy. So it would be good if you were making something for somebody for, say, college or school, and they needed to take like a laptop or something like that. Obviously the foam would give extra protection. But how I was sort of saying with the Decaville, what I would do is, if I was doing Decaville, is I would make each piece its own piece of Decaville. So rather than putting an entire piece of Decaville in, I would make like each of these pieces its own separate pattern piece out of the seam allowances with Decaville. That's how I would do that. If I was doing this bag again, I would be using Decaville because that is my preference. Or fusible fleece, I think, would work really quite nicely as well. It wouldn't give it as much squidginess, but it would definitely sort of give it some more stability. It wouldn't have been enough because of this cotton. It wouldn't have been stuck. It would have been quite floppy. So it needed something. So I do like the foam. I would just probably use Decaville because that's my preference. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed sewing with me this afternoon. I didn't actually think I'd get it finished, and I needed to be finished for about 3, give or take. So that's not too bad, is it? 2 hours to sew up this entire bag. It's not a lot of pattern pieces. It is a fair few, but it's not loads. So it is a fairly straightforward, quite a quick, simple make. Next week, next Tuesday at 1 o'clock, I am going to be sewing up the Harley by what's now Woodland Stitches. Obviously used to be crafted by Leanne. So Woodland Stitches, formerly crafted by Leanne. But again, I've got a link in that description box for the pattern, and I've also done a quick run through of the pattern pieces for that pattern as well. So the link for the pattern pieces video is in the description of the live. So if you just go and check the description out, you'll see the link. Daisy saying it's gorgeous, thank you. Hazel saying love it. Elaine saying beautiful. Suzanne saying thank you. Donna saying gorgeous, and Daisy saying that makes sense. Yeah, with the Deckerville, that is, I think on my, I've got a cutting out video that I think I did for the sunshine, and I think in that I show how I put the Deckerville on that pattern. I think off the top of my head, it's been a while. It's been about a year and a half since I did that video. But if you go and check it out, I don't know whether I've actually got that video linked in this description. Let me just check. Or I'll be bringing up this video and then seeing my own face on the screen. Be like, no. Let me just check the description of this. Yeah, the cutting out and interfacing video is linked. I had a feeling I might have linked it. So if you go and check that out, I'm pretty sure that I show the Deckerville out of the seams on each of the sunshine pieces, and that is what I would do if I was adding Deckerville in. Instead of foam, I wouldn't put it in as an entire piece. I would put it in separately. More work, but it looks better and goes together better, I think. Sue says, great use of a beautiful fabric. I mean, how well does it match? Does it match this vinyl as well? This is the vinyl that I got from Abercorn. So I shall definitely be looking out for some more denim coloured nice vinyl. It's hard, isn't it, to get a nice vinyl, like nice and soft and supple. But I don't need any more vinyl at the moment. So I'm not buying, I'm on a ban. So yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed it, sewing along with me. Apologies for sending the phone flying. It is literally sort of across the far side of the room. So I'm going to go and retrieve that and do a few more jobs before we'll have the live in the club this evening, 7:30. I'll be going over all of the pattern pieces for the Trailblazer. I have also done a very quick run through of all the pattern pieces for the Trailblazer, which is in the description of the first week's video. So obviously anybody who's in the club, hopefully I'll see you tonight going over those pattern pieces for the Trailblazer. Please don't be intimidated by how many pattern pieces there are. There is a lot of pattern pieces, but it does go together like reasonably quickly. It's really straightforward because they are all rectangles. It is just one of those patterns that takes a while to cut out. So yeah, you'll probably, when we're on the live later on, you'll be like, oh my god, all those pattern pieces. But it is definitely worth it. So yeah, so I'll see those of you who are in the club later on this evening, and I do have another live scheduled, like I say, the Harley next Tuesday at 1. I'm hoping, if my week kind of goes well, to kind of just basically come live every Tuesday at 1 o'clock, and so either sew up a bag, or maybe it'll be in 2 parts if it's a bit of a bigger bag and we need to break it up. So yeah, so thank you for spending the afternoon with me. I've really enjoyed it. It's been nice because, like, I know it's just it's online and we're not in person, but for somebody who works on our own, I don't really see many people apart from the delivery guys and the dogs. It's nice to kind of hang out, and I'm getting out of my comfort zone by sewing live on YouTube more regularly, because it's pretty scary, especially when things go wrong, like you send your phone flying, or you've realised that you've missed a piece of your zipper tape and you have to, thankfully Andy's still off at the moment, so he could go and retrieve it for me, but yeah, it all worked out in the end. So Donna's saying same here, nice to have company, and Elena's saying loves the Trailblazer. I absolutely love my other ones in the bedroom at the moment. I love my bag that I made from the Bag Maker's box stuff. Like, it's just my favourite. I just love it. So yeah, but I will see everybody either later on this evening or next week. If you are watching on a replay, obviously anything that we've sort of chatted about during the live should be in the description box down below. Obviously, I know these videos are a little bit longer because they're a little bit more chatty, but I sometimes like to have them on in the background when I'm working as well. It's sometimes just nice to have a bit of company, even if it isn't on a live. So thank you to everybody for joining me. Thank you to the people who are in the club and who are channel subscribers and members, because it means by you doing that, I can come on and do things like this for everybody. So until next week, I'll see you later. Bye.